Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes, give or take. 5 topics, 8 minutes to host a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
Back to the little cow in the cup and having some coffee towards the end of it. I need coffee. How are you?
Yeah,
And
this
you're
is
back to your
coffee.
Manhattans.
Sure. Coffee,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, coffee.
No, it's a week. It's a brown liquor week. You know what I mean?
It's a brown liquor week.
It's just
Yeah, it is on another note of how everything is going. It's absolutely spectacular gorgeousness outside. So I'm so thrilled. I had a business phone call right before we came on air, and they're like, "How are you?" With some folks I hadn't talked to a little bit, and I'm like, "Winter's over." I'm thrilled. It was such a long winter, so maybe that portends to something, And we have now, I believe, a pair of eagles on our property because I saw.
Are they dating?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I thought that I'm learning about them. So there's a large eagle that has been here for several years. I think like 4 years ago, it was a juvenile, and then it's because they turn white, right? It's a bald eagle. And I realized, oh, this eagle that I keep seeing is the eagle from our property. Like it has this great big territory, right? So as I'm driving along and I'm always spotting, and I call it my eagle. Oh, my eagle, my eagle. And then I saw one. I was taking a walk through the back of the property, and their nest is right there, and woof, woof, you can feel it and hear it woof when they take off from right above you. And so woof right above me. And I looked up, and it wasn't my eagle. It was a smaller eagle, but a bald eagle. And so then I looked that up, and my aunt was here visiting, and they're like, "Oh, that's the male." So then I realized, oh, the big one is a female that's been here all this time, and a male has shown up. So maybe we're going to have some baby eagles. I will let everybody know.
If winter
That's my
comes,
news of the week.
spring
Yeah.
is far behind. I don't know. The big news this week is that they found evidence of a signature of life in space.
Oh, yeah, that.
2 days after Katy Perry was up there in the.
Oh, God, help us.
Are the two things related? I think they
I
are.
don't
They asked her about it after, and she said, how it was, and she said it's a blacked out blur, but I'm pretty sure it ruled. That's what she said. Yeah. That's a Katy Perry joke. That's a line from her song TG.I.F.
Is it a live? I should know these things, being as I produced a project with her, but I have nothing to do with
Last Friday night.
The what?
Last Friday night. That's the name of the song. Last Friday night.
Oh, okay. Last Friday
We
night.
can use it as our theme song in theory.
In theory, there's some parallels.
But we will not.
All right.
We will not be doing that.
Everything else is good otherwise with you?
Yeah, I spent all day cleaning today. Like all day.
That is a joyous day when you have the energy to do it, and then you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, all right. We're
right.
kind of in a good mood. We've got, and obviously we had a big week this week with the launch of our Wednesday show.
Absolutely.
I hope everybody got to enjoy Lisa Graves and Nadine Smith and could kind of see and start to feel, right, those two giants.
Yes.
In terms of what they had to say and share and just their thoughts. I felt very nourished by just their first episode, just the content that they put out there, the conversation they brought to the table, I thought was amazing. So, if you didn't, we'll keep talking about it, but if you missed it last Wednesday, you can catch it on the channel. It's on there. And if you subscribe, you'll get the alerts for that, because this is our new weekly show. It was wonderful.
Yeah. It was great. It was great.
Yeah. We'll talk about that a little bit towards the end. All right. I know we want to get going and get to our guest. So you want me to set the clock?
Yeah, you set the clock, because this is
setting the clock.
You're setting the clock. Now, we were talking in our production meeting today when I was outside in my backyard staring at my beautiful tree in spring bloom.
That was beautiful too.
You were talking about sort of an epiphany you had about what we're up against now, involving thought control.
Yeah, it was more of like a sensation that I had. The Harvard thing, reading about that and reading the Harvard professors or the dean or whoever it was, the president's reply, President Alan Garber, his reply to the Trump's administration, I guess last Friday when we were on air, this just was all happening of, they were being sent this, threat of like, we're going to seize control over what Harvard teaches, who they hire and what they teach. Or we're yanking all your funding. And it's quite a bit of federal funding, right? So it's, $2.5 billion wiped off. Harvard has this massive endowment, and we've talked a little bit about it. But I want to read this president's reply that now there's more threats coming in, and then circle back around to actually, we got to keep reframing this guy and who and what he is, and this administration for who and what they are. And there's some really amazing work done in the Atlantic this past week as well. I'm going to read from that. So here's the Harvard unit, President Alan Garber's reply to this Trump administration demand that the Trump administration should be able to dictate to Harvard who they hire based on whatever the person's
viewpoint,
their viewpoints, and what they should be able to teach, or they don't get the money. So President Alan Garber writes, no government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue. So it's time to sort of really take that in of what the demand was of Harvard, and to the point of the specificity that the president had to reply of, like, we will not do this thing you're demanding. And what they're actually demanding is to control, not just control the knowledge base, what they're doing with education, stripping funds from all of that, and not just fuck up the knowledge, not just rewrite history, not just do away with, what the Civil War was like, all the redefining and reshaping that we've been reacting to, and that is a clear intent to create this sort of white ethno-state on behalf of the Trump administration. This sort of, we got to get rid of the wokeness and rid of all that you guys have been da-da-da. But they're literally now coming in and making a demand of Harvard and we're actually going to tell you what to think.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to decide what your thoughts are, what you can inquire about, what your curiosity should be. We're going to determine your thoughts. We're going to police your thinking. So thought police had always been this sort of esoteric thing that's written about in dystopian novels. We've got it from before. We've heard about the thought police before. You can kind of imagine back in Germany, because there was whispers of, they're trying to police our thoughts and it just was this sort of vague idea of a thing, because it was like, well, how can you police thought? What is that? It's one thing to squash dissident and make sure that nobody can speak out against you, but to actually then try to control what your thoughts are. I just hadn't gone there before this moment of realizing what that is, and that it's even possible. And it is possible. There's actually tools now that very powerful tools connected to these phones that are like, it's been kind of happening. And it made me think of a show on Wednesday night. There, Lisa and Nadine on the 5, 8 and a half had a woman named Noliwe, who was a scholar and a professor. I can't remember what university.
Brown.
Florida. Oh, was it Brown? Okay, Brown. Close to Harvard. And she was kind of articulating what her students, the experience they're having, that everything's scrambled for them. The world is turning upside down so fast, but also they don't know what to think. And so then that hit me in another layer of, this whole unearthing of everything and redefining everything is also to scramble the knowledge set out there, scramble the words we choose, scramble the conversation and our ideas and our concepts, and how law is defined. All this shit is all being scrambled up, is a key sort of chef technique for cooking up then to come in, setting the table so that they can come in and start controlling your thoughts. If your thoughts are all scrambled, it's makes it so that, okay, we're not gonna grab it. So although these things feel like these lofty ideas or these big concepts, we're actually now seeing what the steps are in really seeing that
Yeah.
with Harvard at the forefront of this, voicing out back to us, you can't tell us what to think. You can't tell us who we hire based on what they think. That's not we're going to take a stand on this. This is really where we draw the line because it is thought policing. Okay. So this article in the Atlantic did this issue. It's later than you think. And it's got a lot of great pieces in it from different authors and writers and someone named Aziz I can't say Hook, I think Huq, has an article in it called A Warning Out of Time, where he writes about this Jewish labor leader named Ernst Fraenkel back in World War, Germany, as that sort of the war was forming just before the war in the 30s. And he wrote a book called The Dual State, The Theory of Dictatorship, right? And the concept of it, and what the author breaks down, is that these authoritarians, when they come in as they're shaping it, and there's a lot of pre-work that they do before they even seize power, but the goal is to form a separate state that runs in parallel to what he calls the normative state. And that state for the dictatorship is the prerogative state that they want. It's sort of like it comes from legal terms, but it means you create a state where their actions are beyond the reach of the law. So, that started with John Roberts saying, as long as you're a president, if you were a president at any time, you can commit any crime at any level as long as you say, I'm president, or I'm going to be president, or blah, blah, blah. The law can't touch you. So that's sort of...
If you're famous, they just let you do it.
If you're famous, they just let you do it.
Yeah.
It's sort of the beginning of this prerogative state where the ordinary law doesn't apply. And the key thing to understand about what this man wrote about and about what happened in Nazi Germany is the normative state persisted. And the authoritarians needed that normative state to persist so that everybody felt like, okay, things are normal. You could always point to that. While the prerogative state was growing in its scope and its reach and its power. They could scoop up all kinds of other people, but they didn't touch others. So anybody they didn't touch didn't understand this sort of dual state, what I defined as sort of the underworld. I use this phrase called, for these sort of gangsters, and it doesn't matter if they're just running a mafia and organized crime within somebody else's state, because it does. The president is somebody else in the underworld. It's not whoever. Like, we finally made the president a mob boss, right? But it's that whole world has different rules, different laws, different, and they need the normative state. They need the realm of the light. They need the light to move their shadows. It goes together because everybody's still that they are manipulating and sucking resources from and controlling and shaking down needs to keep operating in this realm of the light so that their power can grow, so that they can shake you down. And it's a weird flip to think, but I just end this with this because I'm already over a little bit. We can't stop seeing him and the people around him as a mafia family.
Yeah.
We can't stop seeing them that way. This is a criminal organization. It's a crime family.
Yeah.
And it's like the big mistake we made in replying to those thugs that committed 9/11 was to try to go after a state, try to go after some other country. when it was a gang of very dangerous thugs. So we didn't treat the attackers like mass criminals and mass murderers. We treated them as if we responded as if it was some attack from a nation state, and that drug us into it was talk about eye off the ball, and it was so hard to see that except for in retrospect. This is the same thing, and we need to see it very clearly here, because if you see him as a criminal and understand that he's just a criminal, this is about making money. Oppressing people is about expanding his power and expanding his financial reach and those of people around him. Everything he goes about, where you feel even the thought police, it's a shakedown. It's a shakedown, right? Yes, it's authoritarianism. Yes, we're in it. We're there, right? But so we're there because this lawlessness is about a crime family and the head criminal being beyond the reach of the law. And so this state, this prerogative state, this needed to be formed. He had to break all the rules, redefine everything, come in and really tell us even how to think about it and control that process so that the law can't reach him and he can do whatever he wants like a proper gangster. If we continue to look at him as a criminal and a gangster, then we can actually know where and how to fight him. And Harvard figured it out.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You don't shake us down. Fuck you. And we'll fight you on that.
Yeah.
We're not, it's because we know, because with all these gangsters, you let a mafia, you let a crime family, you let a mobster into your life and try to think you're going to make some deal with him. Oh, sure, you'll own the. I'll share my restaurant ownership with you. Great, and you'll give me some protection, and this is going to work out great for me. Guess what? The clock is ticking to where he burns you down for the insurance money, and it's all gone. You know, you cannot get them. Everyone's talking in terms of you don't capitulate because they'll come back for more, and they'll keep. Yes, because they're gangsters. I understand they put on suits with the stupid red tie and he's sitting in an Oval Office. But Putin, you know, he's been whatever of Russia for as long as that guy came out of a crime family. This is, you know, it doesn't matter if they seize control of the state. I mean, it matters in big ways, but it doesn't change who they are and it doesn't change what their goals are. It doesn't change them. It just subjects us, 300 and something million people, to their ruthlessness. But just keep reminding yourself, this is just a crime family. He's just the criminal. He has a tremendous amount of power, but we can go after him like a criminal. And we can say no to him like a criminal. That'll work. Anyway.
You said this afternoon, he's a gangster, not a god. And I think that's on this Easter week, that's a good thing to keep in mind. Okay, hit the timer. I have a couple things I want to say, and then I'll go into the second topic.
Okay, great, because I want to get to our guy.
When you talked about the prerogative state and the other state, it's like it's the one is inside in the dark, underneath, growing, and in some sense feeding on the state of the light. And what you've described is a cancer. That's what it is. It's a tumor that's growing and growing and growing. And that's what these people are. And that's why they need to be excised from the body politic. They need to be removed. And that was the biggest mistake that Biden made, I think, is not removing every single last person that Trump appointed.
That's right.
So that's one thing. Another thing, the idea of, and we're going to talk about the El Salvador prison later, the images coming out of the prison are also a form of thought control.
Yes.
Because they are chilling and they get into your subconscious and they make you, afraid to resist, which is what they're designed to do. Now, I've said this a million times. I'm going to keep saying it. The Germans of the 1930s did not have the example of the Germans of the 1930s to look back upon. We do. Even the Nazis were ashamed of the camps. They knew what was going on there, and they were very careful not to let word get out.
Publicize it.
When word got out and people said it, most of the response was, that can't be true. It's too awful. There's no way that's happening. People, they said, it'll never happen. No Nazis went to the camps and gave the thumbs up and put it on fucking Nazi Instagram. And that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, I guess the Nazis weren't pornographers,
It's just
Who knew?
flaunting it, and it's gross. Anyway, I want to get into the second topic, which involves this. I know Rachel Maddow and other people have covered this, but I didn't really understand it, and I want to just break it down. I read a great thread today by this guy named Matt Johansson, who runs this website. It's called Vulnerable You. He's a cyber guy who's into cybersecurity and knows what he's talking about. So he went and read through and kind of broke down the letter that the whistleblower wrote to the government and sort of said what it means. And I just want to quickly read, what he wrote. Yeah. Okay. And again, this is Matt Johansson. Okay. A federal whistleblower just dropped one of the most disturbing cybersecurity disclosures I've ever read. He's saying Doge came in, data went out, and Russians starting attempted logins with new valid Doge passwords. The whistleblower, he explains, is Daniel Baroulis, who's a senior DevSecOps architect at the National Labor Relations Board. We'll talk about what that means in a minute. With TS SCI clearance, formerly. He told Congress that Doge pulled off a covert cyber op inside a federal agency. Doge demanded root access, not auditor access, not admin. They were given tenant owner privileges in Azure, which I guess is the program.
This is a program.
Full control over NLRB's cloud above the CIO himself. This is never supposed to happen.
So above the chief information officer, above the person who is in charge of all the tech and the network, they got controls above that person to the actual code itself.
Yes.
Okay.
They disabled the
running the National Labor.
Right.
Okay.
Relations Board. And we'll talk about the significance of that at the end. They disabled the logs. And again, this is Matt Johansson. They disabled the logs. Baroulis says Doge demanded account creation with no record keeping. They even ordered security controls bypassed and disabled tools like Network Watcher so their actions wouldn't be logged. So nobody knows what the fuck they were.
So they wiped it all so that they're doing it in the dark.
And then the data started flowing out. 10 plus gigabyte spike in outbound traffic. Exfiltration from NextGen, which is the legal case database. No corresponding inbound traffic. Unusual ephemeral containers and expired storage tokens. I don't know what that means, but it's just more weird shit. Okay. They used an external library that use IP pools to rotate IPs for scraping and brute force attacks. They downloaded external GitHub tools like Requests IP Rotator and Browserless. I don't know what these are, but they're things that hackers use.
They've got complete control of the system. They're
neither of which the agency uses. Yeah.
As soon as they have control of the system in the dark, we see a lot of movement.
Files going
data.
Out. The most damning claim in this statement, in my opinion, again, this is Matt Johansson. Within 15 minutes of Doge accounts being created, 15 fucking minutes, attackers in Russia tried logging in using those new credentials, correct usernames and passwords.
So the Russians had the usernames and the passwords.
And the timing, and they knew exactly when to
right away to come in and see this system and have control over the system.
Mm-hmm. Two options here. The Doge device was hacked, and I don't think I need to explain the second.
Yeah.
Multi-factor authentication disabled. Someone downgraded Azure conditional access rules. MFA was off for mobile. This was not approved, not logged. Cost spikes without new resources. Azure billing jumped 8%, likely from short-lived high-cost computers used for data extraction and then deleted. And then came the intimidation. When preparing this disclosure, Baroulis found a drone surveillance photo of himself taped to his front door with a threatening note.
Who was this? Who?
The whistleblower.
The whistleblower. Okay,
came home. There was a picture of his own house from a drone thing.
Picture of his house from a drone
with a threatening note. This was on April 7th. They called in U.S. CERT, which is the cyber response team. Senior officials told them to stand down. No report. No investigation. I'm so tired of saying this. These people are all fucking working for the Kremlin. They are all working for the Kremlin people need to fucking, not just you and me, not just the people in the chat, the fucking politicians need to say this. And they need to keep, to your point about being a gangster, he's also a fucking spy. And they need to keep saying it over and over and over. What does he do? He just says, Russia, Russia, witch hunt, the same bullshit words. We have books of evidence that this guy is working for the Kremlin. It has been for decades. Books. It's not like this just happened under Biden. It happened under a guy who I wrote a book about this in 2018. You were writing threads about it in 2015. Like, there's a fucking spy. He is working for the fucking Kremlin. If that doesn't prove it, I don't know what does, other than the other 15 things or whatever many things he's done to help Russia this entire time.
Yeah.
I'm just sick of it. I'm just like, come on, man.
Yeah. So what's the National Labor Board? You were going to tell us.
Right. And why does Elon Musk care? The National Labor Board is basically what regulates labor and unions and the strikes and all of that kind of stuff. So what Elon Musk is after, I think what they're doing here is they're extracting data from people who they perceive as being union leaders and people who are therefore good at gathering people up for resistance, right? Who is the first people? First, they came for I
can't remember.
It's the trade union.
The trade unions.
You know, that's what's going on here. We're into Nazi shit. We've been into Nazi shit for a long time. It's later than you think.
It's later than you think.
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay, that's a lot.
It's a lot to process, but
that's a lot to process, and there's more even to talk about all of this. I know for our guests, we'll get to our guest because I can't wait to hear what he has to say, weighing in on this and everything else that he's bringing to the table for us to discuss. So, yeah.
Okay.
In the meantime, what?
Little Marco is a Nazi. Little Marco in El Salvador, where we send people we kidnap, so there's someone else to blame. Did you see how Marco swooned when he saw Nayib Bukele? Every Nazi is a bootlicker. Every Nazi is the same. When Batista ruled Havana, little Marco's parents hated it. There were Cubans in Miami, so to Florida they came. And if they were still alive now, he would send ICE to vanish them. Every Nazi is a bigot. Every Nazi is the same. Little Marco is like Castro. Little Marco's like Pinochet. Little Marco's like Ribbentrop or any Nazi you can name. I once thought that he'd been bribed or that the Kremlin had some compromise, but little Marco is a Nazi. Every Nazi is the same.
Yeah.
I don't think Malvina would mind. I think she'd be cool with it. I think she'd be cool.
He is just the worst. I know we've got more to talk about with him.
Yeah, he's just
months
awful.
and months and months.
Chunk, great job as always.
Great job, Chunk. Amazing.
Great job on the animation. Okay, we've kept our guest waiting long enough. He is a writer, an editor, a filmmaker, a journalist, a professor. He's been nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. He's the author of one of my favorite Substacks, if not my favorite Substack, America. And he was one of our guests at the first ever 5/8 live event in New York City. Stephen Beschloss.
Hello. We're so happy to see you.
And you.
Yeah, a lot has happened since we were together.
Oh, really? I was just listening to a little bit off camera. I'm already exhausted, by the destruction of our world.
Yeah.
It's bad. Now but
can I say
yes?
This week, with all the terrible things, including the continuation of of a man who'd been illegally kidnapped to a foreign gulag and who's still there. We at least saw a U.S. senator sort of stand up and sort of refuse to just treat that as given and go there and make it possible to at least have a conversation with him. That's a good thing. You talked, Stephanie, about Harvard University, and you talked about it in a meaningful context of thought police and what it is that that the Trump regime is looking to do. But can I say, for me, it's one of those really hopeful things that happened, right? The act of defiance, the refusal to capitulate, the refusal to surrender. And you know what? It's finally, I read all the things that Alan Garber, the president, said about the upholding of free speech and the values of an institution to produce knowledge and to have sort of a free exchange of ideas and all of that. But I thought to myself, they have $52 billion in their endowment, and they're well positioned to say, fuck you, Donald Trump.
That's right. And thank God they did, right?
Yeah.
Colombia was positioned to do it as well, and they capitulated, and now they're trying to undo all of that. But thank God they did. I'm with you on that. Let them shine the way.
And they did. They did. Actually, they did. It was really interesting. Maybe people saw this, maybe they missed it, but within 12 hours, Claire Shipman, who's the acting president of Colombia, Colombia, which capitulated and which, worried about the $400 million that they were going to lose in sort of grants and contracts, and thought that, you can deal with a terrorist, who thought that you could, deal with the ravenous beast who's never satisfied, and that somehow they would sort of be able to survive as they were. But Claire Shipman put out a statement that basically said, we are not going to be, her words, sort of heavily orchestrated, and we are not going to allow ourselves to relinquish our independence and autonomy. Well, it was a little late, but the point is that she was obviously inspired.
Yes.
I read, somebody wrote an op-ed in one of the paper, I can't remember now who wrote it or which paper it was in, and the lead was, Harvard is 150 years older than the United States, and it has a higher endowment, is larger than 100 countries' GDPs. So, and it was making
and
the
they've
argument,
raised money since this.
A lot. The argument was made that if they had not done this, it would be over. Like, it's so important, because I was thinking, it's not just that it's a university. Think of all the people that have graduated from Harvard and where they are and all the industries they're in and all the shit that they're doing. And I don't know if you know this, Harvard is actually a school where smart people go, so it's not like there's a bunch of dummies that are launched into, Jared Kushner accepted, into the world here. So I'm sorry, Stephen, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, so I look at that, that refusal to capitulate, that refusal to surrender, that act of defiance. I'm in this period, since we talked now some months ago, it surely, like you all, I'm documenting the transgressions, right? The desecrations and the accelerated pace of all of this. And there are days, when it's hard to imagine, how we get through this, and to feel overwhelmed, and to think that we're just 3 months into this, and how do we even get to midterms, let alone through four years? And it's easy to get sort of wrapped up in all of that, and I have my dark days like everyone else, but those kind of moments of defiance are so critical in this period to convince people that their victory, the victory of the sociopaths, is not a given, that we have the capacity to move this, and so the money and the power of Harvard could could fight back. And, and we've already seen, Trump has responded by saying they're going to take away their
They're tax exempt.
status.
That's not going to work.
As if
Spoiler
that's
alert.
the political entity that really needs to have
Yeah.
its tax exempts taken away. And then the latest thing is that, they now want all of Harvard's records over the last, roughly over the last decade in terms of foreign donations and, the activities of foreign scholars and foreign researchers and students, whatever way that they can try to sort of break it. But it tells you how they're failing, how they've rather than like, oh my God, they're still going after them. It's like, oh my God, they're realizing they're losing. Which is why they're sort of looking for anything. And, there have been other sort of events like that. I'm thinking about sort of in the same vein in the last days, the Big Ten conference with 18 universities made the decision to resolve to create an academic pact, an academic alliance, very much like NATO, where they basically said an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. Right?
It's so great. And I think there's some law firms also that stood up to him that he tried to take down. So we saw that recently. And with the law firms, again, continuing to remember, this is a crime family. This is a criminal. Putting it in that context, it would help those law firms because he's not going to stop draining them. He's going to make demand upon demand upon demand. And they're learning this. They're like, wait a minute, we're not doing pro bono. We thought we were already doing this work, so maybe we just extend it. But, he's never going to pay a bill.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want his administration. No one's ever going to pay for this. So imagine, and it's the president. So he's going to say, give me your best guys. I want the partners on this. He's not going to settle for just junior lawyers working pro bono. No. So when are they going to have time to take care of any other clients? It's going to start being that he's going to, as you said, this is vampiric.
Yeah.
You let that vampire in and try and think you really think you can do a blood pact with a vampire?
There's no such thing. There's no agreement that is concluded. Right? Any effort that's made to appease only feeds his hunger to take more. And, and we'll even get into that in another segment that, hopefully you'll stick around with of like, it's this sort of anything that's a grievance, right? Is also, we're really dealing with somebody if there's any narcissistic injury, he's going to keep going and going and going like nothing. And that's what that thought police felt like to me. It's like, oh my God, they're going to just keep coming from. It's not enough to just come for our bodies and try to control our bodies, either controlling women's bodies or rounding up men and throwing them in prisons and, whatever. It's like they want to, it's still not enough. It's like, no, you're part of this thing that we need to eradicate. And so we got to come in and eradicate it in your thoughts. And change your thoughts. If we're going to be forced to coexist with you, we have to have control over your thoughts, over your essence. And I don't doubt, and it's not
psychopathic desire is my point. Their desire is like there's no satiating it.
Yeah, and look, it's not just Trump. This is the problem. It would help us if we could imagine if you remove that cancer, that the world becomes a better place. But we're now living in this moment. Whether it's little Marco or whether it's all the other miscreants and sociopaths that are surrounding Trump, the other criminals who are sort of doing their part in this, recklessly dismantling. That's all true. But, I will not get over the fact that you have, every member of the United States Senate who's a Republican, every member essentially of the House who's a Republican has gone along with this. Every one of them spoke those words of the oath of office that they took as their responsibility to preserve and defend the Constitution of the United States. And every one of them has broken that most fundamental, that sort of sacred duty that they have to their country, because they know that, the lawlessness is on a daily basis. They know that it's happening.
Yeah.
It's
We had
such
McCloskey say that.
disgusting cowardice. I mean, if you're not willing to stand up, get another job,
Yeah.
And as for the law firms, it's interesting talking about it like that Trump will use their resources, they're going to just work for him for free.
Yeah.
They could also work against him for free. Like they litigate. They're fucking law firms. That's what they do. Like if they come after somebody else has to hire a law firm and have lawyers to go. The law firm has lawyers. They don't need to hire lawyers because they already employ lawyers, right? So
right, but he's taking those big firms.
Right, no, I know.
He's taking them off it's a divorce tactic too.
It's so stupid.
This guy knows how to hire up all the attorneys in New York so your ex doesn't get them, and so that when you get into this divorce, everybody has to say, "I'm sorry, I have a conflict. I can't represent you."
But you have the New York Times. I mean, in the last day, sort of referring to the fact, there's the nine major law firms that capitulated to Trump, that collectively had promised about nearly $1 billion to serve him, right? The pro bono work. And the article is making the point that these firms are now surprised that they may be called to duty to things that are like other than veterans' rights and other than the things that they imagine that
no way, not
they
possible.
That they might get pulled into duty to try to negotiate some of these tariff deals with our former allies, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that they
not very smart lawyers.
That the world in which they thought they were promising to serve has somehow gotten expanded beyond their original expectation.
I mean, if only there were signs.
Yeah.
If only there was history, as Greg always says.
And how many of those billionaires, can I ask that, of the tech bros and others who were appallingly standing behind Trump, on the stage on the day of the inauguration.
Oh, that photo you ran was really
how many
something.
Of those people now, have already begun to grasp, with these tariff policies, how much their world is being, their fortunes, their company's well-being, all of that has been, decimated and will only grow worse in the coming months. And, they were a part of what convinced Trump that he could do anything.
It's gross. I was thinking about, Stephen, when we saw you in New York, and I remember one thing that you said, because we were all, this is like 5 days after the election, and everyone was just sort of staggering around, dazed, and you said, who's starting to stand up is Jerome Powell. And you said something like, Jerome Powell, resistance leader. I wouldn't have foreseen it, but great. Welcome to the fight, or whatever. And I thought about it because this week again, Jerome Powell and Trump's going after him,
man of the people,
and he can't do anything. He can't, right? I don't think he's allowed to fire him, and he ain't going anywhere. So,
well, no, he's trying to redo. He's challenging the law that came into place specifically to protect from the robber barons and all this stuff, that you actually had independent agencies around the money right, in our economy, and so he's challenging that. That's going up to the Supreme Court, and it's whether the Roberts Court will support in reversing. I can't remember the name of the statute of the law. So reversing it or not,
the
the
autonomy
ruling
of the Fed. That's all the Rand Paul people are going to be so delighted if the Fed blows up.
I guess I just want to say, I was looking up that of back onto the tech people real quick, Stephen. So I did take a look at Palantir, right?
Mm-hmm.
Peter Thiel's company. And part of it was because the images coming out of that El Salvadoran prison reminded me of the Uyghurs so much. I'm like, oh God, this El Salvador have to have the men in white, whereas the Uyghurs were in blue, but it's the same formation. It's the same kind of prison system. It's the same oppression. It's and I'm wondering if that's run by Palantir as well. But I looked at his stock performance, and while everybody else's stock crashed, and his did too on April 4th when the announcement of the tariffs and all this, his is one of the few tech stocks that not only fully recovered, but is higher than it was before the announcement of the tariffs. So I think there might be some folks that are making out like bandits with all of this.
You mean the ones that he gave advance notice to?
Yeah.
That were in the
Well,
Oval
they're
Office?
giving advance notice, but even some of them, like Apple hasn't fully recovered, and Apple got a carve out, right? Okay, we're going to carve out Apple. We'll carve that out. You know, Tim Cook everybody seems perfectly happy and fine with that at Apple. Oh, great. Okay, tariffs don't affect us like they affect everybody else. Fine. People still pay $1,000 for our phones. Great. But Palantir did. It did.
I don't doubt that there are some of those who are going to benefit in this period. You know, Musk at the top of the list. But you know, again, you have to take. You know, again, I'm always trying to see if there's those sort of signs that all of this sort of downward spiral is not inevitable, is not the sort of the end of the story. And it strikes me that suddenly now apparently it's a more serious terrorist attack to spray paint in a Tesla showroom than it is to beat up a policeman or hit them with a flagpole at the U.S. Capitol. One is patriotic and the other one is apparently a terrorist act that could be charged with 20 years of imprisonment. Yeah. And the point is that it's working. Right, that the public that has decided to, to recognize that the Tesla cars are, swastika cars, and to, sort of treat this whole, sort of Tesla regime as part of the problem, and in so doing, it's created, I think, sort of, the stock price is down, the sales are down.
Yeah,
the position of its owner is down. All of that.
We don't see him so
having
much
an impact.
anymore. Yeah, it's having an impact. He's kind of getting a loser L on his forehead too after he couldn't get the Wisconsin thing done. So
just like Inglourious Bastards. Let's just hope it stays there permanently.
Let's just hope it stays there.
Can I read a quote?
Yes,
I have two quotes that I wanted to share. One of them is, and maybe many people have already heard it, but it always, I think, is sort of worth repeating. This is from, I think one of the heroes of this period, which is J.B. Pritzker, who's been very vivid. And, he was at a human rights campaign dinner in Los Angeles about a month ago. And he was there to talk about specifically sort of the dangers that the LGBTQ plus sort of community is facing, and his state and he were committed to providing the support of whatever they could. But he had something to say which was true in that particular instance, and I think meaningful more widely, which is this: bending to the whims of a bully will not end his cruelty. It will only embolden him. The response to authoritarianism isn't acquiescence. Bullies respond to one thing and one thing only: a punch in the face.
That's it. He's right.
That's it.
He's right.
Yeah.
He's paraphrasing
I
the Woody
don't know
Allen
whether
one.
you all are like advocating for people to go out and start punching people in the face.
No,
but let's speak at least proverbially.
Yeah. There's a saying in Russia. We had a guest once that was like explaining how to handle Putin before he invaded Ukraine. This is a few years back. And so I can't remember the phrase, but it translates into fist under the nose. So it's like, you have to keep your fist under these people's noses. That's the only thing they respond to, and it's the only thing they respect. If you don't do that, you're a mark.
Yeah.
Right? You become the mark, and you're gonna get walked all over. You cannot give them what they want. You have to come back and say no. And if you try it, I'm gonna punch you.
Yeah.
So it's that
Harvard did it.
Same thing.
Harvard did it.
Harvard did it.
Yeah, I think we start to see some judges, and I think we're going to see more judges that are going to do it as well.
I hope so.
And I think, I assume you all have talked at some point about the Erica Chenoweth research, the Harvard researcher who makes the point that if you really want to create political change, and she studied, many, many countries historically and recently, and looked at what were the conditions that made civil disobedience and public protest matter, to be able to identify redress and goals, and in some cases change governments, and at least demand and achieve changes. Her thing is you have to have 3.5% of the population as a baseline, and in the American context, that's 12 million people.
12 million people, and if those people show up and are heard routinely, you also can't back off. You have to keep showing up and keep showing up and keep showing up. That you can change a regime. That's what's required for regime change.
Yeah, and I think once we get to those kind of numbers, I think they actually will only grow. I mean, we are the majority.
Yeah, I know.
After all, and not only those. That tiny percentage of Trump supporters who fucked around and are finding out.
Yeah.
Not only the many tens of millions of people who chose not to fuck around, who just chose not to show up.
Yeah.
And now are discovering, what did they do?
Yeah.
Or are not discovering, or still don't know. We were talking about this before. So many people don't know. Wait, did you have another quote though? You said you.
I do have one more. Thank you. I'm still in this sort of realm of the defiance. And again, I don't usually quote a Reagan-appointed judge.
Oh boy,
who was appointed in 1984 and is a conservative judge by history and background. As sort of a part of the opposition per se. I mean, he's somebody who actually is part of the opposition because he believes in due process and he believes in the rule of law, kind of simple, fundamental things like that. And this was today, Harvey Wilkinson as a judge, Harvey Wilkinson, who was the one who was circuit court judge, who was asked to, consider the decision of the district judge to demand that the government begins to make clear, to provide evidence about their efforts to facilitate the opportunity for Kilmar Abrego Garcia to be returned to the United States so that he actually can receive justice, can receive due process, and so forth. But I'm going to read the quote because it's sort of so fundamental, and it's speaking directly to the sort of essentially the criticism of this administration. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Further, it claims in essence that because it has rid itself of custody, that there is nothing that can be done. This should be shocking, not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear.
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
That's very good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very good.
Harvey Wilkinson, a member of the opposition.
Yeah, it's not out of mind. Don't let it be out of mind.
Yeah.
Because that's the point of the out of sight. I like that a lot. Okay, those are good quotes.
Right, here's another quote. I mean, this is from Annie Hall. I know we're not supposed to.
Okay, Annie Hall quote.
I know we're not supposed to talk about what yet, but there's a thing where they're arguing about Nazis assembling and what to do about them. And a man says, well, there was this devastating satirical piece on that in the op-ed page of the Times. It is devastating. And Woody says, well, a satirical piece in the Times is one thing, but bricks and baseball bats really gets right to the point. And a woman says, oh, but really biting satire is always better than physical force. And Isaac says, no, physical force is always better with Nazis. It's hard to satirize a guy with shiny boots. That's it. And Woody, he's like pack of the bat. Yeah. So, to your point, like there's, metaphorically, they react and respond to force and power and dominance. And I think as soon as they see it, they immediately cower because they're all cowards at the end of the day.
They're cowards. Yeah.
Every
And
Nazi is a
you know,
bootlicker.
You can't shake us down.
Yeah.
Sorry. Harvard's like, yeah, sorry, you can't shake us down. And we've got fuck you money. So let's roll. And we've got great lawyers too. Guess what?
Yeah. And
they
and
hired
look,
the lawyers they hired. Steven, you know who they hired, right? You know? Harvard hired two like MAGA hard ass lawyers. So one of them is her. I forget. He was one of the people that did something bad in the first administration. So these are people that really know that side and what makes them tick and all this stuff. So not only are they working for Harvard and have all this inside information, they're also not working for Trump. So they've poached two people that would ordinarily be working for the other side. This is what, like, I mean, with the, you know, to your point, Stephen, about about this being inspirational and possibly a domino that will, you know, have
a turning point. I hope it's let's make it a turning point.
Yeah.
Yes.
As much as I don't want Harvard to be a turning point in anything, it would be fun to.
You know, look, these are times, you know, strange bedfellows, right? I mean, we'll take the, you know, we'll take the friends and the you know, the supporters of resistance wherever they come from.
I'll take the courage. I'll just take the courage. It's like we're at a point where it's like I don't you're showing courage, and that's what we're going to stand behind. We're going to stand behind the courage. Everything else is, you know, wait in line.
Yeah, and look, one of the things that's so, you know, disappointing to me, and I think for many of us sort of in these last months, is how many Democrats, you know, maybe even pro-democracy advocates, let's say, who have failed to understand how profoundly not normal this moment is, and who still like imagine that the, you know, usual rules of order somehow are operative.
You mean I'm sorry, go ahead. And half.
Well, no, and you know, look, I mean, you know, there's obviously a lot of research on, like, you know, normalcy bias that sort of makes the, you know, the point that the, you know, the people's inability to recognize the significance of the threat, to fail to sort of see impending disaster because they, you know, refuse to believe that it's possible. And so they treat it as if the usual ways of doing things are somehow going to be the way change is possible.
Fix it all. Yeah, it's again those two states that lawyer wrote about all those decades ago of the normative state. If you're just staring at the normative state and thinking, okay, we know this prerogative state is going on, this lawlessness is going on over here, but we're just going to pay attention to this thing over here. And we'll just speak and operate only from in here. What happens is that starts to shrink because this is growing. The shadows are growing. They're growing and growing. They're sucking out, right? And that capitalism itself is necessary to keep in place for all of this to happen. So people are still in the same system, the same capitalistic system. And as long as that's working for them, they don't, you know, they think everything's okay, but this pejorative world or the prerogative world is fueled by the capitalism much more so than anything else. So that was the other part of that article. But when you were saying, oh, I'm sorry, Greg, but I was just gonna say, when you were saying that people who are doing that in the Democratic Party, I'm sorry, but Chuck Schumer is on the top of my list. He's on the top of my list, which takes us into, we're going to talk about New York in a little bit. I hope you stick around for that. But
quick question, just because it occurred to me while you guys were talking, like the idea that it's all normal, because there is Gen Z didn't turn out for the election in the numbers. And there's clearly a lot of young men who think MAGA is cool and Elon is smart and all that stuff. I mean, do you think that on some level, because anybody now who's, you know, 18, 20 years old has now basically been living with some Trump weirdness for most of the time that they've been cognizant of politics. I mean, do you think how do you think that affects people who are young? I don't know. It's just throwing it out there as something to think about.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, it's awful to think that there are young people who look at this and think this represents the body politic, right? That this utter hostility toward government and this utter, exploitation of people's weakness right? For for the commission of tyranny, for a despot to come in and feed himself on the ruins of public liberty, as sort of George Washington said in his sort of farewell address. I mean, we've known about the potential of this for a very long time throughout our history, but the thought of young people who think that this is it. I mean, if you lived in the 1980s and you heard the oft repeated notion from Ronald Reagan that the 9 worst words in the English language is I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Right.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so but it was treated almost as a joke rather than serious in terms of obviously he did a lot of dismantling that he did in those days, and I think we're still dealing with the echoes of that. But the fundamental hostility toward government and the use of government to punish and to ruin people's lives, rather than government there to try to make lives better and to try to improve the everyday life of Americans. That switch is so ugly. And it, and I think that the ethos of that, the impact of that, has the risk of having a whole population of young people, doubting, it's not only just like the loss of trust, like doubting what role government really does play in the world, to improve lives. I mean, and that's a terrible danger. If I can say, I mean, I have, friends who, grew up in Eastern Europe, and I'm thinking of one, who's in Poland, and who at some point had to do a legal kind of a deal, and and she said, I'm not going to involve the government. I'm not going to involve sort of lawyers to try to punish the person that I have in mind here, because I can't stand the idea of the government being used to harm people.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't really thought about the idea that there's this whole population where the world they know is like the last decade of political life.
I mean, I try to tell my son, I'm
long
like,
road to repair.
My son thinks I'm insane for doing all of this stuff, and I'm like, you have to understand, this is not normal.
This is not normal.
When you're my age, you'll look back and be like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
But it's
no,
not
and
normal.
even my father's almost 80. Reflecting on his granddaughter and grandsons, of just feeling so terrible for them that this is really has become the norm.
Yeah.
Because as my mom also says, and my parents are very wise, my mom is like, he never went away. It's not like we had a Biden presidency without this man's. He was running a shadow government the whole time, and he was reported on and talked about constantly, as if he was still the president or had some official role in government leadership while he was a regular citizen. So it's been like 3 Trump terms. It's just one of them. He was in the underworld. Back
like
in
he was effectively an incumbent without being an incumbent.
He was.
Okay, we have to now.
Party.
Stephen has to leave at
in a few minutes,
9:15. So we have to set the clock right now, and I think
I'm
we can
setting it right now.
just
Oh my
under
God!
the wire, just
the
under the wire.
The pressure.
So that we have to. So
all right, the clock is on, Stephen. We wanted to talk about New York.
Yeah.
So banging off of that thing with Chuck Schumer, it does feel like we're all New Yorkers, just to full disclosure for everybody. It just does feel like our state is now in the crosshairs. And I think it's always been for him, it's always been this idea that he could never be the king of New York. It didn't matter how many Home Alone movies he allowed to be filmed in his hotels where he could have a role where he walks on and everyone goes, oh my God, Mr. Trump, I'm in New York, so I must see Trump because he is New York, or his stupid, crappy TV show, whatever.
Page 6.
Yeah. New York really, truly.
John Barron reporting.
John Barron. New York never really, truly embraced him or took him seriously. And as has been reported on quite a lot, and from people who knew him, that was like a narcissistic injury he couldn't get over. But New York also has the teeth to come after this guy and has been recently, and successfully, Letitia James. And I just feel like it's like, I feel like he's coming for New York. I do. I really do.
On Twitter or X or whatever the fuck it's called, whatever
that
letter
still
of the
exist?
alphabet. What's that?
That still is over there?
I don't
That
know.
thing is still over there?
It's
I
still
guess
over
so.
there.
Still feeding on itself?
Interesting to go look at from time to time just to see what they're all up about. And all they're talking about the last 2 days is Letitia James committed mortgage fraud. And my God,
right.
they're coming after her and they're doing this thing.
And that she's really not a New York citizen.
All of that. Yeah.
Yeah, resident.
And the reason why they're coming after her is because she's dangerous to him. Almost uniquely dangerous to him, because as the Attorney General of the state of New York, she has jurisdiction over anything that happens on Wall Street, any financial crime, anything like that. And of course, Trump has lots of properties in New York. There's still this case where we're waiting for the appeal to be over.
Yes.
Where they're going to take like $400 million away from him.
Show us the money.
I want to see that. I want that. Why is that delayed? There's no reason for that to be delayed.
Why is that delayed?
So you've got that. And then you have Eric Adams, who is functionally we say the word puppet, Putin's puppet all the time. This guy he will do whatever Trump says. If Trump says jump in front of the subway, he will jump in front of the subway.
Yeah.
You know, he has no more agency at all. And that's the mayor of New York City is, not an insignificant person in the state. The election isn't until 2026. So we have Hochul at least till November or whatever. After, I guess, in 27, she should be there for a while. Everyone's saying Elise Stefanik, Harvard graduate, Elise Stefanik.
Harvard graduate. What an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, he pulled her to keep her in the seat in the House because she wasn't,
She was like 1 inch away from moving into her
empty
apartment right next to the United Nations.
Right. Well, I'm in her district, Stephen, and I can tell you, there's a revolt here. This is a district that's been taken advantage of and taken for granted by the Republican Party for so long. They've basically been. Many of the people up here are just not engaged in politics, and so to them, that's the Republicans that were their fed like that. I mean, you see the Trump propaganda on some houses scattered about, like you see everywhere across the nation, but. You talk to people and they're just, they're like, what? I mean, they're busy and they're hardworking. They're farmers. They're, but not lately, not when like the butcher is going, can you believe what they did now? Got to get rid of this guy. Like, that's, you can't go to the grocery store without the people working there talking to you about how horrible Trump is. So that's a big shift. Let me tell you.
Can I go back for just a second to sort of remind people that when Trump was elected in 2016, 9 out of 10 Manhattanites voted against him, voted for Hillary. Yeah. The people who, in essence, knew him best, roundly rejected him, and I'm quite sure that he's still quite aware of that statistic. And the guy who says I am your retribution, if he could find a way to haul every New Yorker, every Manhattanite into jail, he would do that too.
If he bought into a co-op, the co-op board would be like, fuck off, buddy.
Yeah.
That's why he has to have his own building. Nobody would accept him because co-op boards can do that. They could be like, we don't want you. We don't even have to tell you why. Get the fuck out. So, that's a good point, Stephen.
I think we should just all be aware of that. And I'm not interested in any elected official that can't show a track record if they're trying to get reelected. I don't even want them in there if they are not part of resisting this and using all the power at their own disposal in the positions that we've elected them to actually throw sand in the gears of this man. So, and his aims and the administration's aims, and I think I feel like New Yorkers are pretty vehement about that, pretty strong and vocal about all of that. We were at, Greg and I, a couple weeks ago, we're at the big march down in the city. And there's going to be another one tomorrow. So
how many? Let's do a prediction. Can we? If the idea was that between Grand Central at 42nd Street down into the 20s on Fifth Avenue, you had over 100,000 people. In
easily
any
200.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are we expecting the same kind of numbers tomorrow? Do you think, or does this not have quite the same?
I don't know.
drive that the last one
It's
did?
a nicer day. It was very well organized the first time, I have to say. I was very impressed with how it was organized.
And it was raining. It was cold and raining.
Yeah, it'll be a nicer day tomorrow. And New York City is a good place to do this stuff because it's easy to get there and it's easy to leave. It's easy for people to suddenly show up en masse in a specific place, unlike in Washington, D.C., where you have to, and no one knows where they're going and everything shuts down and there's nowhere to park and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
And then you get there and you're like a million miles away from anything, Here I am in front of the Washington Monument. Great.
Well, are you going to go in for it, Stephen? What do you think?
I am. Yeah. And
okay, great.
And it strikes me that, sort of like Harvard, which is okay. It's an elephant, it's a monolith, it's, all of these things. And we can have a lot of complicated feelings about it. And obviously across America, people have lots of complicated feelings about surely New York City, but it needs to come out in mass. As a demonstration that the people who know him best cannot stand him. And I think that's, it's part of the creation of the mindset and, not just about tomorrow, but I think the coming weeks and the coming months where as the transgressions continue, right, as the violation of their oaths of office continue, that there are examples where finally people say, like, I've had enough. And, I think it might be because of the dismantling of Social Security, if payments don't start to come.
That's what it felt like a couple of weeks ago. That was like the thing. And now I think that and there were many, many signs for release him, right? And because that had just begun.
And so I think the other one is that if there starts to be the kidnapping of American citizens and taken to that gulag, that's also going to be one of those things where Americans say that they've had enough, and goodness knows it ought to.
Yeah.
Amen.
Those
are good words to go out on. So
I want to ask one quick. Are you going to broadcast tomorrow?
I hadn't planned. I mean, that's a good thought.
Yeah, I highly recommend it, and we'll I don't know if we could even help put it on. We can put it on this channel. I don't know. I talked to Greg because Greg did it last time for us when we were there, and I thought that was great, Greg. I mean, it was nice to even if you don't end up broadcasting live, getting some recordings that you could then post so people can see it. Because even we did not see the kind of news coverage.
The media doesn't cover it. They don't.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I happened to be in Chicago on April 5th, so I sort of covered what was happening there, and it was photographs and all that. But there is something about moving pictures.
Yeah, there is something about moving pictures.
It does capture it. Capture it. So your Substack is called America. Is it America.substack? Is that what it is? I can't remember.
Well, America.substack.com. You can also go America.news. I mean, either of those get you there. It would be super if people are not following it now who would have a look. I'm right at the point of hitting, literally within 100 of hitting 100,000 subscribers.
Oh my God, everybody subscribe. Yeah. Let's get you to
It's really good. It's an excellent Substack, and you do those great videos also, which are fantastic. And so I encourage everybody to do that. Okay, we've kept you 2 minutes.
To be with you both. Thank you.
I always kept you 2 minutes longer than we promised. So
2 minutes longer than we promised. We're gonna see you soon. We're coming back to the city, and we'll all be together soon. I promise.
That would be a pleasure.
Yeah.
Excellent. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, too.
Stephen. Oh, I love Stephen Beschloss so much.
Me too. Okay, we're okay. We only went 2 minutes.
I know you're so nervous about that. He's good. He's fine. I promise you. He was like,
but I like to, people say they're leaving at a time. I like to make sure that they leave at a time. That's all.
We did a good release there. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. Announcements. Everybody get Stephen Beschloss to 100,000. There's enough of us here. We can get him there. So just go onto Substack and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. Just subscribe so his numbers are up. that helps everybody. It also helps with the algorithms, and so that he gets recommended more, and his words can make it out there for more people, because I think it's very important work that he's doing. And we were having a little bit of a little bit of time together before we went live on air, and he was saying, yeah, I just feel like I just need to, there's reporting of the news and doing that, but I think we just all have to start talking to each other, like just plain speak, talking and sharing, and he's feeling a need for that as well. So I think you're going to see some of that writing coming out of his Substack. His
Substack is really good. It's like
I read it.
He's
every
serious but hopeful, and
Yeah.
I like it a lot. He's good.
Me too.
So the big announcement, of course, is, as you mentioned at the top of the show, that we have a new show called The 5-8.5.
Yeah.
Which premiered on Wednesday, hosted by Nadine Smith and Lisa Graves. Lisa Graves, by the way, who was in the green room when I logged on at 7:30. So I talked to her before the show because
how great! Oh, I wish I had done that. Yeah.
So she told me what she was going to do, like comedically next time, and it's very funny. So I think everybody should watch that for sure. This coming Wednesday. It's interesting because I've never produced anything like that before, where we just create the framework and then we're back to what do you call it? Like a stage parents or whatever? Is that what the word is?
I don't know about that. We're just producers. This is what it is.
I know, but no, I mean the feeling for me,
it feels great. Yeah. It is like it is I produced a few things, so it's a.
I have not.
You have not, and
No.
it's but this is different also, I will say, in terms of, I think because it's a live show and because we're going to watch these two women, these intellectual, giants, as I said,
powerhouses,
really find themselves within the context of this show. Not that they need to discover themselves, but just find how
they're dynamic. I think
they're dynamic, and also how to take all of what they've got. And, and they do other things. I mean, Nadine has her NPR show, and it's not like they don't have media, but it is a different kind of thing to co-host, figure out your dynamic, and also within this framework of like, okay, it's a live show, let's go. Find your voice in that so you can tell your stories and get your points across. I thought they did an amazing job.
I agree.
I was completely blown away. They're total pros, but also
pros. Yeah.
Fascinating. What they had to say and share was fascinating.
I mean, like you said, like they did not know each other when we started this. That's the
Yeah. We just did this. We arranged this marriage.
Well, that's what Nadine calls it. She said it's sort of an arranged marriage. She said,
we did.
But it's great. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Good.
I thought it was fantastic. And
yeah.
So thank you everybody, by the way, for watching.
Thank
everybody
you,
out there who
watching.
for watching and tuning in. That was great. I saw a lot of people in the chat that night
too.
because I was able to actually
because we could watch
once.
Yeah, it was great.
You know what was the hardest part for me?
What?
I kept thinking of things to say.
Yeah.
And I would go to say them and then realizing that I don't need to say them.
Yeah. So it's great. So I'm looking forward to next week. It'll be another great show. And also big thanks to Matt Fossa and Chunk.
Oh yeah.
For creating. They took our brand here, all of our little brand elements, and they as a DNA, and they created something just for Lisa and Nadine, because it's it's got its own vibe going.
It's definitely it's got its own vibe. It's already got its own vibe. It's
great. So big props up to those two creative artists that we are so grateful to know them both and to have their share in their work. It's a really fun process to work with folks like that.
And I just think it makes everybody feel good. You know what I mean? Like Stephen was saying, like we try to find things that give us hope and joy and all of these things, and it's one of those things that gives it. Although you said that you kept thinking Wednesday was Friday, and
I know. I was like, oh, it's Saturday. It's like, no, it's Thursday. Girl, get to work.
I always think Wednesday is Thursday, and then I'm like, I have another day before.
Threw off the week for sure.
Okay, do we have any other announcements? Do you have any other announcements? I don't think I have anything.
Do I have other announcements? I felt like I did, but now I
don't
can't
know.
remember anything.
I did have a podcast today because I'm not doing it every week now. So I do have a podcast. Mike Albertus, who wrote Land Power. It's a cool book. And yeah, that was fun. And
Okay.
if you want to just listen to the Marco Rubio song without Chunks animation, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but
I don't know why you would want to
Yeah.
without that. I love it. That's gonna make him a little crazy. I loved how his face went into it.
Oh, it was so good.
So
enjoyed
good.
it so
So
much.
good. All right. So should we jump into our last 8
Let's
minutes?
go.
Are we doing it after hours?
You tell me.
I don't know. It's Easter coming up, Easter weekend. Where am I next week? I don't know. I don't know what I have to say in after hours.
That's the thing. I don't know what to talk about, really.
All right, everybody, we'll figure out something to do. Let's figure out something to do next week.
Okay.
How does that sound?
That works for me.
I'm just like spontaneously throwing this up at my co-host, which you should never do, but I'm doing.
Yes,
Right now-
and. Yes, and.
Yes,
See, this
and.
is what you do in improv.
Yes, and
Yes, and.
8 minutes on the clock.
Okay, we don't even have 8 minutes. Now, we were talking, and I heard this thing, okay, that the NYPD or whoever arrested him released actual height and weight for Trump. Okay.
Of Donald.
Yeah. That is conflicting with the bullshit height, the clearly lie. And then I found out that it was not in fact true. It was a ruse. Okay. The ruse said that Trump was 5'10", 285.
Yeah.
And the bullshit medical thing says he's 6'3" and 225.
Yeah.
Now, there's a spectrum. Okay. Both of them are lies.
Okay.
Where do they fall? Where is he on the spectrum? Is he closer to, I guess this one will be the 5'10", 285, or is he
Gotta
closer
make
to
it.
this?
Do it with this finger.
Oh, no. Yeah, this is 5'10", and this is, yeah, and this is 6'3". So which one is he closer to?
What is that? 5 inches? Yeah.
5 inches.
The missing 5 inches, as I
Missing 5
commented
inches.
earlier, that
Yeah.
got us into this whole situation in the first place.
did.
Those missing 5 inches.
It did.
If only they had, they existed, we wouldn't have these many problems.
I think he's closer to 5'10", 280. He's certainly closer to 285 than 220.
I think
not
he's over
225.
300. How can he not be over 300? Come on, there's a 3. There's a 3 and there's a 5.
Who said it about?
There's a
Paley?
5 and a 3.
He looks like he looks like he's eaten an entire other person. Like
I know.
yeah, it's not good. It's not a good. That's why. Oh, did you like the Pink Floyd things? By the way,
The what?
they're all Pink Floyd lines on the
Oh my
head.
God, I hadn't even read them.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you saw them. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So
Big man,
Nope.
pig man, ha ha, sure.
Sherrod, you are. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I couldn't get them all from the wall. I wanted them all to be from the wall, but
Yeah.
I couldn't quite get there because
Nice.
Big Man, Pig
You
Man is
don't
too good.
need no thought control. Yeah, these are all lines.
They're
Nice.
all lines.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
All verses.
The other thing
Okay.
is the Rococo or Rococo or however
Oh
you say
my
it.
God.
You want to talk about what that is? People might not know.
Yeah. Okay. So I saw this TikTok. Back to the TikTok. I saw this TikTok and then I looked it up and she's right.
Yeah.
So this one was like, there's a picture of of Donald in the White House in front of a fireplace mantle.
Oval Office.
And other people, right? And what used to just be a fireplace, there's all of a sudden there's this filigree. There's this like frilly
gilded shit.
rococo
Mhm.
gold gilded shit on the fireplace decor. And so she looked it up and she found it, and it's from Home Depot. And it's just like plastic, but you can go a couple hours over and get the gold spray paint and spray paint it gold and then
PVC.
slap it up there.
Yeah.
He is picking, and then she found a thing of like a cherub, like decor, like the Cupid, like the naked Rococo fat little baby angel things.
Oh, the pedophile one. Okay.
Yes.
That's okay.
Painted, same thing, Home Depot, 17, whatever. painted it with the gold and slapped up over a door. He's going around the White House, having the White House staff, because we've seen Melania's taste. It's not something I'm up for, but that's not her taste. It's not.
No, this is pure. This is pure. The dumb man is in charge.
This is pure
what it is.
him, but it's like it's like he's got this base of people that are like Dodge Ram truck engine war gas, testosterone tough, and this guy, he's taking naked babies and painting them with gold and putting them up.
Is he painting them with gold? It's so cute.
What the fuck is this? I'm like, what kind of monarch are we talking about? I'm like, oh my God, he's Rococo. I can't unsee it now. I can't unsee it. Like the French monarchs with the heels on this so that they look like they're taller, wearing the heels and the clothes and the wigs with the doll hair and the hats and the peacocks.
He's Louis.
He's a Rococo peacock in heels.
He thinks he's Louis XIV, but he's Louis XVI, is what it amounts to.
Oh my God.
It's
This is not the British kings. This is not a Viking. This is
no.
This is Marseille or something.
Versailles. Yeah, the
Versailles for sure. I don't know. That's a little fancy. Versailles.
I think he would like fancy. He would love fancy.
But he doesn't know. He's dirty. He's a dirty guy. Like that's for real. That the folks that worked on Apprentice and they went into the Trump Tower and they were like, we can't shoot here. It's dirty. It's rundown. He's a hoarder. Like he also has Louis XVI.
That's
he
good.
also
That's good.
has nice one.
She's been on all night, by the way.
Yeah. All right. You go for it, Sam. So on the mantle, he had trophies or something. He also has
there's his golf trophies. He won so many tournaments.
Okay, so he also does this thing where he just stacks things up like a hoarder. If he didn't have his dad's money, he would have been the guy that you find under, because he had piles of stacks of magazines and papers. He just creates like nests for himself with things that are just cluttered and stacked and dirty and because you can't get into cleaning it. And then puts frilly, girly, I'm sorry, it is like Rococo. Like if you walked into a woman's home and she had that French Rococo design everywhere with gold gilding, you were like, this is a mentally ill woman. Stay away. This is the crazy
I think my
lady.
aunt does have shit like that in her house.
Is she crazy? Is it the crazy lady?
She's very MAGA. She's very against immigrants.
Something's wrong. Something's wrong. This is his inner world that he expresses outwardly when he gets a chance at with decor or whatever it's disturbing.
Have you noticed that all of these fuckers now wear the red the uniform?
Oh yeah, they all wear his.
It's really creepy. It's like Clone Day, Yeah. Did you do Clone Day in your many high schools?
In my many high schools.
How many high schools you went? Did you go to a couple high schools?
I went to 2 high schools because my family moved.
That's fine.
Yeah. So
2 is many. I don't know. I thought maybe it was 3. I wasn't sure.
Did I have what? Did we have Clone Day?
We had Clone Day where you would pick somebody and then you would dress like them and go to. It was like during Halloween week we would do this.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. It's a clone day. They're all cloning Trump. They're all like, I'm in the red tie and the white shirt and the blue. And it's just like, yellow hair, red tie, white shirt, blue suit.
And they're doing the tan.
The Roy Cohn tan. The
Roy Cohn tan.
So good in that movie, man. That's a good part of the movie. Is The
Apprentice. He's speaking of the movie The Apprentice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about it because when we were talking before about, I feel like we've almost pivoted into After Hours at this point. Which
we're kind of doing an After Hours as a 5th segment. Go ahead, go on.
Like the movie, actually, there's parts of the movie where he is a sympathetic character. That's why the movie's so good, because the movie isn't a let's just bash this guy.
Right.
It really rounds him out. And when he does the thing where he's trying to buy the Commodore Hotel and turn it into what becomes the Grand Hyatt, where you and I were not long ago, 2 weeks ago, tried to refusing to eat their $90 breakfast buffet.
I
which
mean,
is
I
very
love
comfy.
it that the captain of that was like, you know what, you want to go over there. You don't want to like.
No, they were great.
They
I'm
were
a big
great,
fan
but
of,
they're also
Trump
like,
doesn't
we
own the
know
hotel
that
anymore.
this is garbage. Yeah. Okay.
But in the movie, they make it seem like he understands that that's a good spot and that it needs to be a nice hotel. And he's right. It is a good spot and it did need to be a nice hotel and it is a nice hotel. So he did that thing, but it doesn't fucking matter because all the other shit that he's done is so horrible and horrifying that it just doesn't make any difference. Also, they don't go into in the movie where he buys all the TVs from the Kremlin.
From the spy shop. Yeah. From
Yeah.
the Kremlin shop. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't go to that so much, but
Just to reference everybody on that, so it's not so inside baseball on that one. Truly, there was a known by our intelligence community, and this has all been reported, a known spot in New York City in the 1970s and 80s that was an electronics store, and they knew that it was controlled by the Kremlin, which was in the Soviet Union at that time. And this people would come in and buy the electronics, and they had spyware in it. And that is where Donald Trump went to go buy all the electronics to put in his hotels.
Yeah, it's an American Compromise. It's in Craig's book, American.
Yeah,
Compromise. That's what it's. Yeah,
yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. It's almost the tip of my tongue.
Bogatin.
No, the name of the place of the electronics store.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
It has. It's like it sounds like Likud. It isn't that, but it sounds like that.
It sounds
you know,
like
it's all they pick the same 7 letters and they just rotate them around.
Oh God.
You know.
Okay, but yeah. So the 5 inches, whether accurate reporting or not, I'm going to say that's our torment. These missing 5 inches. These missing 5 inches are are causing all the problems we're having today with this guy, have driven him his entire life. And probably if he had them, he wouldn't be putting gold naked babies and filigrees all from Home Depot all over the White House.
And as CF pointed out, they're not even level. They're like,
no, they're not. They're like literally
just like it's like finger paint. It's the equivalent of finger paint because these are children. They're children.
They're children and
children
and just walking around. He probably walks around and touches it like it's real. Touching my gold. Yeah, that's what we're dealing with.
Get real gold. Like what's the?
That's what we're dealing with. Oh my God!
Someone's going to have to go in there. Assuming we get rid of this, whoever the next person is in the Oval Office is going to need to sage the fuck out of that place.
Well, the one thing I could say about that is, everybody get your sage out because you're going to need it. You're going to need it in your house. You're going to need it in your communities. You're going to need it at the TV. Just keep saging and we're going to get through it.